Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of AKP Sports Talk. As always, I'm Ari here with Korea. Back for another Monday after another weekend of football, week 3 of college football, week 2 of the NFL. We've got the Monday night game tonight between the Falcons and Eagles, but we'll start off with recaps from the Saturday and Sunday. Some really good wins for both of us, and some really bad losses for for both of us. We'll start off with Saturday, 1-2, but we got the one win was the play that we were both on. That was the miracle legacy, whatever you want to call it, ECF comeback. What were your takeaways from your plays, and then I guess Saturday in general?
Yeah, Saturday wasn't too bad for me. Obviously, first, tough loss with Miami of Ohio on that teaser. Literally lost by one. I'm not going to beat myself too much over it because they lost by 11. So if they just, would have converted maybe like a field goal opportunity or just didn't didn't turn over the ball that much, it could be on their way. Obviously, they were really playing close in this game the whole entire time. Against Cincinnati at home, they were making it an 8-point game, or it was at least, single digits for most of that game. So it wasn't getting, too much of a lead. And, if Cincinnati got one and then Miami of Ohio would respond. So it's not like it's a bad loss. It's just a tough break with Miami of Ohio at home. Their offense could not do anything. Their defense was doing just enough. Their offense just couldn't do anything. So that was a tough loss there with the +10 teaser. But obviously Pitt, that was a great win. Obviously they won outright. So that obviously, didn't have to worry about the +8.5. I knew they were going to make that game close. So, just tough that Miami of Ohio sold the teaser, with losing by 11. And I knew as soon as I saw Cincinnati drive in with like 2 minutes left and they were getting toward that mid, I was like, oh no, if they go for some ridiculous field goal and that's exactly what they did. So I'm blaming Cincinnati on that one. Then Ole Miss Wake Forest. I mean, I wasn't the biggest believer in Ole Miss's defense just because they haven't played anyone. Now I am. I am a believer in Ole Miss's defense. That defense is for real. They went to Wake Forest and only allowed 6. And yes, you can say, well, it's Wake Forest. But Wake Forest, they had one of the best passing attacks in the nation. They were 5th in passing in terms of, their yardage and all that. And you can say, oh, well, Wake Forest hasn't played anyone. They played Virginia, and they lost, but they kept it close in that game. And, I thought Wake Forest's offense was going to do some things, but wow, Ole Miss's defense, you shut me up and prove me wrong. Well, and it's not like it's a bad loss. I'm not going to say that this over was a horrible loss because, like I said, I'm on Ole Miss, whether them to make the playoff or their team total over. So, anyways, that's more of a win for me, finding out Ole Miss's defense is better than I thought it was, especially as they get ready for SEC play. I think this is pretty evident that Ole Miss is definitely going to be one of the scariest teams in the college football playoff this year, just in terms of how well-rounded this team looks. Their offense obviously looks great. Their defense right now looks as well as their offense. We got to see how they do in SEC play, but for now, Ole Miss is definitely a scary team. And obviously, the whale of the weekend, UCF moneyline. What a comeback that was. Legacy, I was just believing in that run game. It was slow at start, obviously. Whether it was, or I know you'll talk about a little more, whether it was the turnover early. I didn't really watch too much of this game just because, there was so much going on personally that I was dealing with that I didn't really get to tune into this game until like later in that second half. And then that's when that comeback started to come. And I knew that was just their ground game. UCF was using their ground game. Jefferson needed to pass when he needed to, but it was just the ground game that I was talking about. That duo, one of the best, pretty much obviously the best duo in terms of running backs in the country right now, just in terms of, yards per game and all of that. But I know if UCF was going to win this game, it was going to be with their ground game. And that's exactly how they won this game with their comeback win. Very legacy, obviously. They went on the final drive. Just a great way to end that Saturday for me. So even with, those 2 losses, I'm not beating myself up. Miami of Ohio, they could have easily cashed that teaser if they just would have got a stop on that final drive or whatever happened. And then Ole Miss Wake Forest, I mean, I wasn't a big believer in Ole Miss's defense. Now I am, and that's even better for my season props. So I'm not going to beat myself too much over. So end of the day, I'm pretty satisfied with a 1-2-ish day. It would have been 2-1 if Miami just didn't lose by 11, excuse me. So 1-2 day. I'll gladly take it for Saturday. We're still getting early now that we have most of the non-conference slate out the back window now. Now we're just focusing a lot more on conference play. So it's going to be a lot more exciting now. We get to see a lot more closer lines, better matchups, not these, 49-point favorites like Tennessee, which is absolutely crazy. But yeah, now that we're definitely getting into SEC conference play. It's definitely going to be a lot more interesting to see how these teams do. So 1 and 2 day, gladly take on that Saturday. Ari, how'd you do on Saturday?
Yeah, I mean, not the best day to start off with Friday with Arizona. The very first drive was what I expected the entire game, and then after that, it seemed like they changed the play calling. Like the first drive was a bunch of just, getting the run game going, quick passes, getting the ball out of Noah Fafita's hands quickly. And then after that, it seemed, I mean, I was just going based on what I watched, so I don't know for sure, but it just seemed like it was a bunch of like deeper routes and, just nothing where Fafita could get rid of the ball quickly. And so that's when the pressure, started to get to him when he couldn't find someone. There's like no separation other than T-Mac for the receivers getting open. I mean, the defense gave up basically 24 points because one was the punt return for a touchdown, so if you told me that they gave 24 points, I thought Arizona was going to score close to 30 points. So I thought they would have won if you told me that. So, they have their bye next week before going at Utah. So they're going to have to figure something out with the play calling and all that, because I think when you have arguably the best quarterback wide receiver duo in the country, you should score more than 7 points no matter where you're playing. So obviously that was a tough start to the weekend, and then it got even tougher to start Saturday with arguably one of the worst bets of the slate, with North Texas giving up 35 points in the second quarter alone. It was the highest total on the day and almost went over in the first half off Texas Tech essentially alone. So that was just a really, really bad bet. But then Indiana cruised easily to win over UCLA. I think they won 42-13. We talked in the offseason before, right before the season, about how bad UCLA was, and they're maybe worse than I was giving them credit for when we were talking about that. I think it was under 5.5 for their season total. They went down 14-0 basically right away. I think it was 21-7 at halftime, and they got rolled in the second half as well. So again, UCLA is going to be a team, and now UCLA plays. They have their next 3 games are against LSU, Oregon, and Penn State. So it's not going to get any. It's not going to get any easier for them. I think they're like a 21.
Oh, that's sorry, Ari. That is disgusting. I just had. I'm sorry. If any UCLA fans out in the chat right now, I am sorry. You just may want to go skip to basketball season. That's all I'm going to say. Skip to basketball season.
Yeah, I think they're already like. I was just looking at yesterday. They're already they're a 25.5-point underdog to LSU, who hasn't even looked that good themselves, obviously. So, so yeah, it's going to be a rough season for UCLA. It already has been. It's not going to get any easier these next few weeks. So that was a good bet. And like to talk about UCF. I was worried because they were getting crushed in the third quarter. I think they're down 21. And we talked about them relying on the run games. When you're down by 3 scores, you can't really rely on your run game. So that was my concern. There's also some unluckiness with them having 2 field goals and an extra point blocked. Like you never see, even just one blocked kick is pretty rare, but to see 3 is like feels like one in a million. That type of with how rare it is. But we finally saw Jefferson kind of take over a little bit more in the second half after a slow start in the first half. And then he's so tough to tackle. He's literally like Cam Newton, with how big he is and how strong he is. Hard to tackle, and obviously with their running backs, with Harvey, who had his huge game as well with 2 touchdowns, 180 yards. So. It definitely didn't go the way that we were expecting and how they did win. But obviously, whether you win by 1 point last second or you win like Texas Tech won by 50, and it all counts the same. Obviously, at the end of the day, so obviously we'll take it.
I think the best part about UCF is how plus money they got throughout overnight going into the next day. I woke up the next morning. I think I saw them as like plus 120 or like plus 124 almost kickoff. And I was like, oh, this is even better for us. And, it was just looking really, really, really bad. Obviously, you mentioned just with the missed field goals and everything. But obviously, a win's a win at the end of the day. Obviously, they came back and won. So that was obviously great to see. Indiana, obviously, I think UCLA is going to be one of the worst teams in college football. You mentioned just absolutely went to UCLA and beat them down. And you mentioned UCLA, their next 3 games really hard. LSU, Penn State, and Oregon, obviously top 15 teams, arguably. And then it's just not getting pretty for UCLA after that. So I agree with you with that. And then Indiana, obviously, a great win. I think they're a sleeper team in the Big Ten this year, especially with how their defense plays. One of the better defenses right now in the Big Ten. And then obviously North Texas, that was a tough one. I almost even live bet North Texas money line as soon as they got that quick score when they were down 10-7. And then all of a sudden I saw it was like 24-7. I was like, wait. I was like, what happened? And then I saw it was 52-7. I was like, whoa. I was like, what happened here? I was like, North Texas, what happened? And then I saw the stat sheet and I saw 3 picks for Chandler Morris. He was just turning over the ball. It was just really rough. North Texas was at it from the get-go, and obviously they scored, but it would have been nice to score earlier to make that game a lot more interesting. So that was a tough one there. And then obviously I'd say the last one for you, Arizona, obviously on Friday, that was a tough one. If you take out the obviously I think it was the defensive touchdown or whatever happened. You mentioned 24 points. Oh yeah, the punt return. Yeah, if you take that out, that's a special teams touchdown. So that's neither here nor there. But if you take that, obviously, it was just all K-State's defense. They really made it hard for me to really get anything developed. We saw T-Mac be a factor, but outside of those two, you didn't really see much of an offense really develop. As you already mentioned, just a lot of deep shots, look downfield. And, I thought the strategy for this game maybe just methodically move down the field. It didn't really work that well against that K-State pass rush.
It's what they did on the first drive, and then they just went away from it basically. So,
I was really about to say the first drive they were literally just methodically moving down the field, and it ended in 6, and then we were it was looking good, and all of a sudden it was just more deep shots, more deep look downfield, quick scores, and it was tough when you got to combat that, especially with K-State and how they love to run the ball with their offense. So that was a tough look for you, but obviously, we look to bounce back in college football this coming week, obviously, with conference play starting soon for most of the conference teams. But obviously, we got to recap how we did Sunday, or, some people do. I really don't want to. I don't even want to look at that. I'm just gonna ignore that that's there, because I'm just gonna go on a rant right here. Okay, Ari? What are the Cowboys doing? What are the Cowboys doing? What are they doing? Dak Prescott. You're at home. Your first game at home. I thought you guys are good at home in the regular season. What the hell was that?
I would say it was more on the defense than Dak, I would say.
Oh yeah, no, 100%. There was no defense. You could have put 11 Stevie Wonders out there, and they would have played better than the Cowboys defense, because they couldn't stop a nosebleed. Alvin Kamara had his way left, right, and center in the first half. They made Derek Carr look like the next Joe Montana, for God's sakes. Like, they made him look like prime Drew Brees. This was insane. I couldn't believe how bad this Cowboys defense was, especially and maybe just credits to show how bad the Browns offense is the last week, because everyone's talking about how good the Cowboys defense was after week 1, but how they went into Cleveland and just beat up on Deshaun Watson, but now they couldn't do anything to stop this. Just unbelievable. And then don't get me started with the Lions too. What was that? Jared Goff, you're at home. There is no wind, there is no cold, there's no nothing. How are you losing at home to the Buccaneers? I know they have a good defense, but you have an even better offense. You have the best offensive line. You have the best wide receivers, arguably you could say, in terms of that system. You have one of the best 1-2 power backs out the backfield. How are you only scoring 16 points at home to the Bucs? And you can say, oh, it was a revenge game. I don't want to hear that, bro. I don't want to hear that. The Lions are one of the best teams that is trying to win a damn Super Bowl. And you lose to the Bucs. And then the Seahawks-Patriots under. Well, as soon as I saw those two teams score 24 in the first half, I said that goodbye to that under. I knew that under was gone, because They're just moving up the field. I thought there was going to be a defensive game, a lot more 3 and outs. No, we're just going to move up the field. Patriots offense. Oh, we're just going to let Ramondre Stevenson move up the field. Jacoby Brissett. Oh, he's going to look like prime Russell Wilson, going out the pocket, moving up the field. And don't get me wrong, I'm not blaming Geno. I love Geno. I'm a Geno fan. Go Hawks, of course. But for an under, why are you throwing these lobs to DK, man? Go Hawks. But anyways, that was a tough under. I'm gone. Oh, and I'm back. Anyways, Seahawks under. That was a disaster. And the worst part is it went into overtime too. The killer of an under is overtime. If you want your under bet to be murdered, go have the game go to overtime because it's just going to be killed. So, how did I do this weekend, Ari, in football? Look right there. The Cowboys and Lions in a teaser. That is how I did this weekend. How'd you do this weekend?
Yeah, not too much better. I had one winner, but Niners was a bad play, which, as a Seahawks fan, I'm not going to be that mad to be wrong. If I'm going to be wrong about a play, I want it to be wrong about them. But, I'll give credit to where credit is due. I was definitely wrong on the Vikings this season. I was low on them, and their defense is a lot better than I had given credit for, especially their defense. I mean, the offense I still thought the offense would be, pretty good under, O'Connell with Jefferson and all that. Like, I thought they would be decent, but their defense is what would say I was more wrong about. They really were able to, pressure Purdy. They got, I think, 2 picks on him. And I think they maybe got a fumble too, if I'm not mistaken, maybe not. But they got at least 2 turnovers and, made things tough on them enough to be able to, pull off a pretty big upset, I would say, with the win over the 49ers. Colts, another bad play. I mean, I don't get only giving Taylor 12 carries. He had over 100 yards on the 12 carries, and the Packers' run defense was terrible last week against Saquon Barkley, and Taylor was great with what he saw, but he should be seeing 17, 18 plus carries, with how bad the Packers run defense is. He averaged 8.6 yards per carry with the 12 carries he saw. So he was great with what he saw. And, the Colts did not score a touchdown until I think 2 minutes left, basically. Richardson, I'm still a believer in him, but he only ran the ball twice until the last 2 drives. And the big part of his game is his mobility and his ability of being able to open up, lanes for him, to open up the game for him as a passer. So when he's only carrying the ball 2 times through basically the whole game until the last 5 minutes, that's not a recipe that I believe in for my belief with the Colts heading into the season. So that's, I'm not going to say it's a concern because I think he's going to run the ball. At least I hope he's going to start running the ball more. I mean, I'm not saying run the ball 15 times a game, but you have to run at least a little bit to keep defenses honest for you as a passer. So I'm hoping he gets back to his mobility more, because that is, like we see with Lamar, we've seen with Jaden Daniels so far. They both use their speed and their legs to their advantage, and them running the ball helps open up the passing game to help keep defenses honest, for them. So I'm hoping Richardson runs the ball, and then Taylor just only seeing 12 carries was I would have bet on him seeing at least 16, 17 plus carries, especially after how well he was running. I mean, it's not like they were down by that much. They were down 10-0 in the first quarter, so it was still close, and then no score in the second quarter, 13-3 through 3 quarters. So they were never down by more than 10 points, to a point where they had to abandon the run game. Not to always blame play calling, because, you can't always do that. But I don't understand Taylor only seeing 12 carries against that run defense that struggled against Barkley the week before. That was that. And then the Cardinals was my one good play, obviously. The Rams are in shambles with how injured they are. They lose Cooper Kupp too, but even before Kupp got hurt, they were getting crushed even before that. So it's not like that one injury, impacts them, impacts how the game went. Like their defense is banged up. It's not, and they without. I talked about regression in the offseason, losing Aaron Donald and Raheem Morris, was not going to be easy to replace both. The play calling and then not just the presence of Donald alone. I mean, he draws double teams obviously so often to where he opens up so much for the rest of the defense, and not having him there and relying on a couple of rookies basically on our defensive line is not going to be even close to the same. Now they're going to play the 49ers next week, who are going to be mad, obviously, coming off this loss. So they're probably going to be 0-3. And we'll see with Cooper Kupp. That might have, ankle injury in a walking boot. If he goes on IR too with Puka, things could go downhill pretty quickly for the Rams. But we'll see with Kupp. I'm not sure if it's that serious or not. But yeah, I mean, the Cardinals, Kyler Murray looked fantastic all game. 2 touchdowns, Marvin Harrison, obviously in the first quarter. After all the talk from week 1 of Harrison not being as good as advertised, yeah, he's fine. And then I was more surprised about the Cardinals' defense, how well they played. I mean, obviously the Rams' offense was banged up. Offensive line was banged up. But even still, I thought the Rams would still score, 24 points-ish, 27, something like that. I had the Cardinals winning, but I thought it was going to be like a 34-24, 34-27 type of win. I think it was going to be a game where they basically sat the starters in the fourth quarter. I thought, I didn't think it would be like that, obviously. So obviously that's going to change up the NFC West a little bit with how, I don't think it's only 2 games, but with how injured the Rams are. And then now facing San Francisco, it's not easy to overcome an 0-3 start in general. So especially when you're still going to be without Puka for another 2-3 weeks at least, and then maybe Kupp for maybe some time as well. So yeah, 1-2 day for me. Niners was, obviously just a bad bet. The Colts was a bad bet, but I still don't get giving Taylor 12 carries, with how well he looked. Then the Cardinals was, probably maybe the most sweat-free bet of the slate.
Yeah, obviously that's a nice one with the Cardinals as well. You mentioned, injuries aside, this Rams team is just not the same on both sides of the ball now. They were banged up on the offensive side, and they have so many losses on the defensive side this offseason. There's just a new Rams team, and obviously the Cardinals, they meant to carry with their offense. I didn't expect their defense to play that well as well, but I think it's just, Rams, negative game script for them. They were out of it so quickly. We saw Kyler Murray just absolutely shelved through that Rams defense with connecting to Marvin Harrison early. And so it was just all Cardinals all day. You mentioned the Colts, just weird game. Obviously, A-Rich didn't really get anything developing. You mentioned the play calling, a little suspect, not really giving Taylor much love as well on the ground. Just a weird game for versus Tyken and that whole Colts staff. Just didn't really get anything going.
I'll also say that the line was pointing towards it being a weird game, and that's what happened.
Yeah, it was. it was always, I saw some people always talking about the Packers +3, and obviously that's a good look. I just didn't really, I was not a Malik Willis believer. I'm still not a Malik Willis believer, and now they get to go to oh my god, now they got to go to play Tennessee this week. And I think that's the ugliest line of the week, because I think the Packers
revenge game for Malik.
Oh my god, I'm staying away from the Packers and Titans this week because it's Will Levis and Malik Willis, people. Yeah, woo. Anyways, and then with the Cardinals as well, Niners. That was a tough one. I think a lot of people maybe underestimated the Vikings this year, as you mentioned. Sam Darnold looks a lot better in that system now. We saw the big deep ball to Justin Jefferson, and even though he did get injured, I think signs are pointing to him returning next week as well. He even said he's going to be back, so it's not like it's a huge loss for them. Niners I don't know what it is with Minnesota. They always have the Niners number. They know how to beat them. Brock Purdy couldn't get anything going offensively. Just the whole Niners team just was really slow, and you can't really blame Purdy for those 2 interceptions. They were both deflected balls that just went in the air and just landed in the hands of some Minnesota defenders. So can't really blame them. Just the offense didn't really get anything going. Even though Mason had a 20 carry 100-yard game, just outside of that, just not really anything going. Obviously, I know they lost Kittle, I think, during that game as well. So obviously a good pass. Good blocker.
He came back. It was only for an IV. He wound up coming back.
Oh, he did come. Oh, well.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, he did come back, but that whole offense didn't really find any groove. It was just all Vikings all day. They were pretty much in the face of Purdy all game, and then it was just a weird game. I don't know what it is. Maybe the Vikings just have their number, but obviously, we're moving on to Monday here, just wiping away the weekend.
I think I saw a stat that they haven't won at Minnesota since like 1992. So for whatever reason, which I don't know how many games have been played in that span at Minnesota. It could be a small number, but it's still something.
Yeah, I mean, I remember that game last year with the weird, what was it? I think that was the Monday night game where Kirk Cousins threw that ball at Jordan Addison, and I think it went off to I think Charvarius Ward, but then went in Jordan Addison's hand. I mean, this year, just like I think the Niners just have bad luck in Minnesota. So 1 and 2 day for you. I'm not going to talk about my weekend. We're moving on to Monday here. Obviously, we don't really have that many great bets for tonight. Obviously, with all of this, all the sides, just, first, I'm not backing primetime Kirk in any way, shape, or form on that spread. And then the way the spread jumped from 4 all the way up to 7, I don't really like that bump for the Eagles as well. And the total has been weird. Obviously over the weekend, we found out AJ Brown is out, and that's obviously a big part of the Philadelphia Eagles offense. So this is a lean here. I'm not giving anything out for tonight. My lean would be the primetime under system here. Hit last night, obviously, in that Bears Texans game. Just very low scoring game. And I think the Falcons defense can really hang around here. Obviously, we mentioned no AJ Brown. So, we're going to see AJ Terrell mostly lined up against Devontae Smith, which could open up for a big Jahan Dotson day. Who knows? But, I still think, besides that, I think, we're probably going to see a lot more ground game. Obviously, we have, even though they don't have Brown, they still have Saquon Barkley at that backfield. We're going to see a lot of him. We saw a lot of him last week, obviously, being the key part for that big win in Brazil for the Eagles. And I think they just lean on the ground game once again. They say, here, Saquon, just do your thing. I mean, they signed him for that reason. So if not that, then obviously Hurts has that ability to scramble out as well. And you look at the Falcons. Look, I don't know what it is. I don't know what happened with that offense last week. You can say Kirk Cousins still doesn't look healthy, or you can say the pass rush just wasn't doing their job in terms of defending the pass rush from the Pittsburgh Steelers last week. But I think you can wash that all away, because I think they do have a bounce back week this week, but I don't really want to take them I don't really like that spread, and I don't really want to have to back Kirk Cousins in any way, shape, or form on a primetime spot, because that guy sucks in a primetime spot. So I'm just going to think it's going to be a low scoring game. I think both defenses do just enough. We talk about the Eagles. I think the Eagles defense does look a little bit better. Obviously, you can only take, one game away from it. And, the way that Josh Jacobs, looked in that game in Brazil, you can take the field into account or whatnot, or all that other systems, but it was a pretty high scoring game last time. And I think now in this Monday night spot, I'm giving out as a lean, because that total, I think, was at 48 or 47 and a half a few days ago. And obviously now it's all the way dropped to 45 and a half. I think last night it was at 46. So it's just going to keep going down. So I don't really like anything. So I'm just giving out as a lean. It's just a weird Monday night game with all these injury news and just all the systems and whatnot. There's nothing I can really say I'm confident in backing on both sides. I'm not backing this Eagles defense so far with how they looked week 1, and the Falcons offense, they looked horrible week 1, and the Falcons defense looked good. The Phillies offense looks good. I don't really like anything in this game. Just primetime under. If it doesn't hit, I'm not going to beat myself too much over it, because we got a game on Thursday, and I know that game on Thursday is, oh boy. So we're just going to focus on tonight's game. Obviously, Falcons Eagles. I'm only giving out the under 45 and a half as a lean. I don't really like anything else in terms of sides or any other totals or whatnot. So that's my one play for tonight, just with the lean on the full game under 45 and a half there. Ari, if you have any leans for tonight, what do you like in this Monday Night Football matchup?
Yeah, I'm with you, where I don't have like a super strong play, but still want to have something to, sweat out, for the one game. And I got burned by the first half under last week by a last second field goal, and I'm going right back to it. I think, like you said, I think we're going to see both teams want to run the ball early. Obviously, no AJ Brown, which, they still have Devontae Smith, Goddard. We'll see if Jahan Dotson finally has his first big, role with the Eagles. But I still think they're going to want to get the lead the offense, I should say, with Barkley. And then, it was a rough watch with Kirk Cousins last week against the Steelers. And although the Eagles' defense isn't great, they have at least a good defensive line that can put pressure on Cousins if he can't move in the pocket at all. So I think we're going to see also Cousins. And I looked at Bijan props too, because I think we're going to see Bijan get involved both as a runner and potentially as a receiver on quick passes when Cousins is pressured right away. So I looked at Bijan's lines, and I kind of like his rushing receiving which is like up to 100, which is pretty high. But I mean, it's high. It's high for a reason. You could say. But I think his like rushing line was 64.5, and then his receiving line was like 29.5. I think so. Rushing and receiving, although I guess that's 5 yards more than what those two combined, but. Maybe it's a little bit less, but it was between 95 and 100 rushing plus receiving. So I like that as well as a look potentially. But I just think both teams are going to want to establish the run for different reasons, obviously, but just want to establish the run with Barkley and Bijan. Obviously, we'll see Hurts run the ball a little bit too. The Falcons defense upgraded this offseason on paper. They looked pretty good in week one. Obviously, it was against Justin Fields, and that Steelers offense. You can only take so much from that game on both sides. Obviously, from that week one game, but I think we're going to see a pretty sluggish game. I think I like the full game under look as well. I'm just going with the first half, which they're both are pretty low totals compared to where most games are at, but I'd say that's for a reason, for the most part. Obviously, since A.J. Brown got hurt, it went down like 2 points, and it was announced he was ruled out. So that's obviously part of it too. So I think we kind of see, obviously it's been a tough start of the season for primetime unders, but I think that we could see this one hit, and obviously, it's possible first half goes over, full game goes under, or vice versa. Anything is possible, obviously, but I like the first half look, and I don't mind the full game look as well. So yeah, again, but like it's more of a strong lean than the super, super strong play, but you still want something to sweat out for the one game, so that's where I'm going at for tonight.
Yeah, with this Monday night game, it's just a very strange game. You look at, the game script, it kind of goes with the total as well, low totals as well. You have, Bijan on part of the Falcons backfield, pretty much their main part of their offense right now. Obviously, they have guys like Kyle Pitts and Drake London, some skill receivers, but you mentioned Kirk Cousins against that Phillies pass rush is going to be a really big challenge. I don't know if the Falcons offensive line can really do enough. We saw TJ Watt pretty much live in the whole Falcons backfield last week. Just pretty much getting some real estate back there because he was sacking Kirk Cousins so much. And I don't know how they do against that Philly pass rush of Jalen Carter and I call them the Philadelphia Georgia Bulldogs because of all the Bulldogs that came up from Georgia. All that whole defensive line now playing for Philly guys, and I don't really know how Kirk Cousins does. So I do like that shot of Bijan's over rushing and receiving yards. With pressure in his face, dumped down to Bijan. The safety blanket, of course, and in terms of the game script, I like Bijan on the ground as well, getting a lot of carries. I've seen people talking about his over, I think 14 or 15 and a half carries, just in terms of the game script, being a running game. So I like that first half under for you. I mean, you mentioned on the other side, the Falcons defense has taken a little bit of a step up now, but you really can take, only so much away from the Pittsburgh Steelers offense. Now you got to play Philly at the Link. And, it's always a hard place to play. Philly always shows out at home, and this is their home opener. Obviously, it's
the Panthers bench Bryce Young.
Oh God!
Andy Dalton.
Wow! Oh God! Oh Jesus! Well, I mean, I was gonna say whoever the Panthers. I was gonna say whoever the Panthers are playing this week might be a full fade. But now that they're benching Bryce, we may not.
Last year Dalton wasn't that bad when he's awesome.
Exactly. I was saying maybe the Panthers spread might be a look this week, depending on where that spread goes, depending on who they play. I think they play the Raiders this week.
Yeah.
I'm not, but some people out there who were some Bryce Young haters and any unbelievers, who knows? But I do like that first half under for you. I think in this weird game script we talked about, A.J. Brown out, the Eagles offense probably going to be leaning more on the run. With Saquon, we know why they signed him. We know why we brought him over, to give him the ball. That's pretty much what we saw last week. I think we see a repeat of that this week. So I think it's just going to be a lot more running the ball. Obviously, that obviously leads to longer drives, obviously corresponding 4 and under, which is what we're both hoping for. Ari hoping for the first half under, me just hoping for the full game. Obviously, none of these are confident plays. We're just giving them out, obviously, just to have something for tonight. We weren't really too confident in any of the plays for tonight's Monday night game. So that's all we're giving out here. Just Ari with the first half under, going back to his, play from last week. And then me with the full game under, going back to the primetime under system that we love truing here, even though it's been a rough year for primetime unders. So, you can count all the wins, but you got to take away that Tua injury, because that game easily could have gone over if Tua stayed. And then if Isaiah Likely's toe was inbounds, obviously that would have gone over as well. So, that kind of variance, you can't really say, oh, that's such a good win, because, it's literally, variance that you can't really include when you do your analysis of a game. So, it's tough, but I'm hoping that after last night's primetime under, where we didn't have too many injuries and, just both defensive games, I think we can see another repeat of that. So hopefully we get another low scoring game like last night, even though I would like to see a lot more, action and a lot more fun. Last night game was boring. For our bets, we're hoping for another boring snooze fest tonight between the Falcons and Eagles. Obviously, you can find both of these bets on our Twitter below AKP Sports Talk. We'll have our full video on our card for Monday Night Post momentarily, but that's going to do it for today's episode. Obviously, we'll be back Thursday, and I know it's an ugly game, Ari. It's Patriots and Jets. Oh, boy. Oh, boy. Oh, boy. We're going to have fun looking at – we said this in the offseason. We were back in March and April and May saying, oh, I am praying for some Jets football on Thursday night. Well, here you are, people. All you people that were talking about baseball stinks in May and June, this is what you asked for on Thursday night.
All I can say is that sounds like another primetime under to me, just hearing the matchup. So,
you look how good the Patriots defense is right now, and we always know how the Jets defense loves to play hard. So we'll obviously have all those bets on Thursday in our next video. That's going to do it for this episode in this video. That's RM Korea. We appreciate you guys for tuning in. We will see you guys on Thursday.